Можна вважати, що ключовим елементом успіху України проти війська Росії було тренування, яке українські вояки провели у канадській військовій програмі Operation Unifier. Колишній комендант програми в місті Яворів, недалеко Львова, Lieutenant Colonel Melanie Lake, сьогодні поділиться своїми особистими спостереженнями про успіх цього канадського навчального військового проєкту.
Дорогі глядачі, маємо нагоду тепер вітати в нас керівника проєкту Operation Unifier, Lieutenant Colonel Melanie Lake. Welcome to our show. And we would like to thank you for not just this interview, but everything that you've done with Operation Unifier. Welcome to our show, Lieutenant Colonel.
Добрий день, дякую.
Дуже приємно. I would like to start off this interview today with the front page of the Globe and Mail, where it says, with fierce resistance, Ukraine is foiling Putin's victory plans. So I would like to suggest that you're the one that sponsored this front page today with all your work.
I certainly can't take credit. This is the fierce determination, all of the hard work for many years, and the courage being shown by Ukrainian forces and Ukrainian society. I'm just happy we got to play a small part in that, and I truly couldn't be prouder watching the fierce defense that they are mounting.
What would you be, we understand that everything needs to be planned in war, and there's a science to it. What kind of training were you intending and did do while you were there with this Operation Unifier project?
So war, I mean, when you talk about war, there is a science, but I would say it's more almost an art. And it's really about the human elements. And when you do it well, it's about seizing that power that comes from human initiative and creativity, and just finding a way to make things happen with what you have.
Well, our show had the honor of being with Prime Minister Harper on a government visit to Ukraine, and we visited the Canadian operation in Kyiv as well as Yavoril. And one of the things that came out from the Canadian representatives leading at the time is that there was also a learning experience for the Canadian forces. Would you be able to confirm whether indeed anything like that has happened, or was that just, being nice commentary?
No, not at all. I think that is one of the true successes of this mission. It's an example of where we go and we work side by side with another military, and we both come out more ready. We both come out more prepared. As my day job right now, I'm the commanding officer of 2 Combat Engineer Regiment here in Petawawa, and I feel much better prepared to plan and direct the training of my unit, having had the opportunity to work alongside the Ukrainian Armed Forces, who were so generous in sharing the very hard lessons learned that they've learned through fighting for 8 years in the East. The lessons that they've learned in blood that they willingly shared with us, so we don't have to pay such a high price to learn them. Things like the importance of camouflage and concealment and dispersion of your forces and survivability, making sure that you're always dug in and protecting your assets. Because in the early days of the fighting in the East, they paid a high price with the threat from the air. So they were very deliberate about institutionalizing those lessons learned and in turn sharing them with us. As a CO of an engineer regiment, I'm particularly lucky because there was so much information and knowledge to gain from their experience in the Donbass, and they were really deliberate about sharing it with us, sharing the type of explosive threat that they're continuously facing and how widespread and prevalent the use of booby traps and IEDs on the Russian side was. So all of that lets me come back to my unit and helps us train more deliberately for the potential threats that we'll face, which makes us more ready.
Lieutenant Colonel, there's training and there's a science to it all. And how do you see like a direct effect, or do you see a direct effect of what you trained and what you're hearing, what's going on in the battlefield today?
Yeah, I'm always careful with this question because I certainly don't want to come across as us trying to take credit for, again, the remarkable defense that Ukraine is mounting. We didn't teach courage; they have that in spades. We didn't deliver the will to fight that they are showing and that ability to mobilize the entire society in support of their armed forces. That is all inherent to Ukraine, and they certainly have been showing us that since 2014. There's also, an awful lot of work that they have done on their own to reform and re-equip, and deliberately institutionalized those skills and lessons that they were learning in the East. So a tremendous, tremendous amount of the credit is all theirs. The areas where I do see our training having an impact is really in that embracing mission command, the idea of decentralizing decision making and allowing and empowering your subordinate commanders and your leaders at all levels to use their initiative to take the fight to the enemy at the right time in the right place, not being exceptionally prescriptive, communicating your intent, and then letting them surprise you with how they execute it in the best kind of disciplined way. And the other piece is, again, seeing the effect that empowered senior NCO Corps is having on the maintenance of discipline on the battle space. And you're seeing this in direct contrast to Russia, who doesn't have a professionalized NCO Corps and certainly hasn't embraced mission command. You're seeing many examples of senior Russian generals getting taken out at the front because, they launch their operations and nobody is empowered to make decisions. So when things go wrong, things come to a standstill. And these generals are going forward trying to unblock whatever is happening there. And Ukraine is seizing that opportunity and taking them out. And they're also seizing the opportunities that this lack of battlefield discipline is permitting them to exploit. These things, like you see these long convoys of Russian vehicles all bunched up together, and how Ukraine is masterfully taking them out with small teams, employing those anti-tank weapons that are being pushed in, small teams with Stinger missiles that are doing outstanding work. Ukraine has done an incredible job of implementing drones and just even small commercial drones, wide-scale usage, and allowing that to enable precision targeting that minimizes civilian casualties while having a huge impact on Russia's ability to both conduct operations and resupply its soldiers. And all of that combines to a devastating effect on the morale of Russian soldiers.
Lieutenant Colonel, you've like the whole world now is watching the results of your work, and as mentioned before, it is a science, but other people say war is an art. And to what extent, like obviously there's a level of success, but what surprised you the most, either watching the news or understanding what's going on the field?
A lot of the surprises that I felt were from the Russian side. Having trained alongside Ukraine, I had immense confidence in them. I knew that they were a combat-capable, battle-hardened military, that they had made some very good decisions in the summer to get the right leaders in place, with very credible, battle-hardened, combat-proven, trusted commanders leading the fight. I was very confident that they would mount a credible defense and make this extremely difficult for Russia as they tried to push in. most of my surprises, like I mentioned, were the level of ineptitude that we were seeing from Russia, the lack of unified command, for example, across the four fronts as they tried to push in, not having a single operational commander overseeing and synchronizing the fight. Um, just the poor discipline and lack of institutionalizing the lessons learned from fighting in the Donbass at the very base level. And I think that is also attributable to not having a senior NCO Corps, because they're the ones who really enforced that sort of discipline of camouflage, concealment, good spacing, survivability on the battlefield. The total lack of comms discipline as well. I mean, we often in the West talk about and try to prepare for fighting in a comms disrupted environment, because Russia is known, or at least was known, to have very capable electronic warfare assets that would disrupt our ability to communicate. But we haven't seen that. We haven't seen comms widely disrupted, and we've seen very poor comms discipline on their side, mostly using, or largely using, unencrypted means that many of us are able to then listen to and hear. And I would say, finally, I was surprised by their total lack of understanding of what they were coming into, and how high up that went. Like, this idea that I believe they thought Ukraine would not resist, that they would be welcome with flowers, that I think they completely missed how far the Ukrainian military has come in terms of reforms and re-equip and retraining, and just a complete lack of understanding of what they were coming into. That was all incredibly surprising.
Well, Lieutenant Colonel Melanie Lake, thank you so much for this interview and all the work that you've done in Yavoriv, and what you've done with Operation Unifier on behalf of Canada. And we're seeing it's been helpful in Ukraine, and we hope that it's also helpful for Canada in what lies ahead, also maybe in the Arctic or wherever else we may be threatened. So thank you very much for your time and for your efforts.
Thank you so much, and Slava Ukraini.